Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. I guess we can get started. So today's subject is going to be about bulletproof hosting. I named this session 50 Shades of Bulletproof Hosting for a simple reason. It's like 3 years ago when I started to study this subject, I understood that reality is very complicated from at least the description of what bulletproof hosting is, in the sense that there are so many different cases, so many different types of services that like this naming this label bulletproof is in fact far from really describing all this variety. So in this session, what we are going to try to achieve is that we are going to explore this underground ecosystem and this specific underground service. And my main goal for today will be to give you a clear definition of what a bulletproof hosting is, what is like the typology of those bulletproof hostings. Give you some historical background so you can understand like how this term was coined, like how did it appear. Give you some historical examples. Then I would like also to explore a little bit the technical side. What is BGP, what is autonomous systems, names, and this kind of stuff. So just to give you the basic knowledge to be able to do the investigation. And to explore this type of services yourself. And eventually, in the end, what I want to do is I will share with you an investigation that I've done 3 years ago, and that is still very relevant today because the service is still very much alive, as we will see it. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to drop them in the Q&A part. I will try to have a look and answer them. So I would prefer it to be as dynamic as possible. So do not hesitate to interrupt and ask. So let's get started. Yeah, happy to see all of you, and do not hesitate to interrupt me and ask questions. So very shortly about me, I'm a CTI analyst. Like you see my social network. I have a blog, cybercriminaldiaries.com, where I mostly write about Russian-speaking cybercriminal ecosystem. So if you're interested, have a look. And there are some materials already about bulletproof hosting there that can be also interesting for you. So let's start with the most important part. What is a bulletproof hosting? Because there are so many people who pretend to provide bulletproof hosting service in the underground, or even if you just look in Google for bulletproof hosting, you will find a lot of services that will advertise as a bulletproof hosting. But reality is that most often they are not. At best case, they are what we could call offshore hosting. We are going to see what it is. So without further ado, let's try to understand what is a bulletproof hosting, at least in theory. So in theory, a bulletproof hosting is a type of cybercriminal service that is provided by cybercriminals for cybercriminals. And that helps them to host their website, host any file. So basically hosting services, even purchase a DNS, it can be a proxy. So any kind of hosting services that aims to help you conduct cybercrime and reduce the exposition in terms of abuse. So what does it mean? It means that if I'm a bulletproof hosting and I'm hosting your website, I will ignore the complaints, the abuses that may arrive at my email, abuse email, and I will simply not consider them, and I will not take down your website. This is at least how it works in theory. In practice, as we are going to see, there is not really such a thing as a 100% bulletproof hosting service. It doesn't exist. So threat actors use bulletproof hosting not necessarily to be invincible. It's not possible, but because bulletproof hosting services will maintain their service for a longer period. And if, for example, their service or their IP address is going down because it's blacklisted, the service will provide a new one, and like help the cybercriminal to maintain its operation as long as possible, or provide him with a replacement. So I hope this is more or less clear. So, like, once again, bulletproof hosting is not a silver bullet. In fact, it's like a service that will help, but not solve all the issues, as we are going to see. Another very important factor of bulletproof hosting, but it can also apply to offshore hostings, is that they will basically allow you to host things that are illegal to different extent. So in the case of bulletproof hostings, it can be anything related to cybercrime, to malware, to child pornography, to like terrorism, this kind of stuff. Once again, in theory, we are going to see that, in fact, a lot of people who are providing this type of services are at least claiming to have some limits. So this is the main difference basically with offshore hosting, where like the type of illegal things that they are going to host is going to be mostly linked to to piracy. So like, pirated movies, or like basically things that you used to stream movies and these kind of things, stolen books, like this kind of stuff. So offshore hosting will mostly exploit legal loopholes in different jurisdictions in different countries. So, for example, in Netherlands, it's kind of very useful and very easy to host pornography, for example, because they don't have the same laws. So they don't really stop hosting services from hosting this type of content. And same goes for piracy-related content. So offshore hosting are also accepting things that can be illegal in some countries, but not everywhere. And they will basically play with this gray zone and exploit different legal loopholes to provide their service. Another common point between bulletproof hostings and offshore hostings is that they will very often apply no QAC. What does it mean? It means that any customer can register their account anonymously without providing like his real name, his real banking information, this kind of stuff. Of course, they can accept payments with cryptocurrencies, which also like grant a complementary level of anonymity. We know that cryptocurrencies are not anonymous. Obviously, if you pay from your wallet on Binance, Binance requires your ID to open a wallet account. Well, if you pay with some cryptocurrencies from a wallet that is linked to Binance, there is nothing anonymous about that, but it's a complementary layer. And of course, cybercriminals have ways to obtain cryptocurrencies without having to open accounts at places like Binance. So they can avoid the QAC for cryptocurrency possession as well. But this is like another story, maybe for another time. So like the whole point of a bulletproof hosting basically is to allow you to host your illegal malicious content anonymously and as stably as long as possible, as disruption free as possible for this type of activity. So the main categories of cybercrime that we can find on bulletproof hostings are brute forcing, scanning, phishing, malware C2, so command and control, ransomware sites, or at least ransomware FTP servers, spam infrastructure, of course, everything that is linked to darknet marketplaces. So it can be forums, it can be like drug marketplaces, it can be also things linked to child pornography, unfortunately, or to terrorism. So this is like the broad examples of what can be shared and what can be hosted on this type of services. I just have a question. Oh yeah, great question. Was Cyberbunker a real bulletproof hosting service? This is a great question, and we are going to answer it a little bit later on. The answer is kind of, like it's precisely, like this service appeared at the beginning of what we could understand, as like the internet, and in the sense that it appeared at the beginning when the concept of bulletproof hosting was coined. So let's say that even if it's not like a real bulletproof hosting, it's as close as it was at that time, which is like beginning of 2000s. But we will get back to this question again. So let's move on. So very often when we talk about bulletproof hosting, we talk about a core enabler of cybercrime. Why exactly? It's because like some services like bulletproof hosting, but also like marketplaces, like forums, like cryptocurrency exchanges, illicit ones, are really the most basic and the most important services that will allow other cybercriminals to conduct their activities. So if you want, they are at the bottom of this pyramid, and because they exist, they will help other cybercriminals to conduct their activity. I would not tell that if bulletproof hosting did not exist, or if like it was not possible to create such a service, cybercrime would not exist. But you need to think of it as an accelerator, something that will ease, simplify the conduct of cybercrime for other cybercriminals. So this one is, I think, like this picture, I think it depicts quite well this idea. But once again, on the bottom of this pyramid, I could also add other services that are like very important. For example, I was talking about forums. So, for example, why forums are also an enabler of cybercrime is because they provide a place not only for discussion, but they also provide a place for monetary exchange. And by that, I mean that they will be guaranteeing that the exchange is going to happen, and that the buyer and seller are going to get their service and their money. It's basically called the escrow system. And the escrow systems is like for example, PayPal. How does it work? PayPal will take a fee, a commission, from any transaction that occurs with this service. And of course, PayPal will guarantee that the buyer will get its good, and that the seller will get its money. And each time they take a commission for that. Well, forums are doing exactly the same. They are taking around like 10% commission for this type of things. So bulletproof hostings are not the only enable of cybercrime, but they are one of like the core ones. Let's move on. I'm just checking that there are not other questions. Yeah, good. So let's also like demystify it a little bit further, because very often when you read common newspaper articles, like for example about Cyberbunker, you have the feeling that those infrastructure are absolutely invincible, and that it's absolutely impossible, or it's impossible to dismantle, or anyone that can use a bulletproof hosting can do whatever they want, and that there are no downsides for using them. Well, first of all, as we are going to see, bulletproof hostings are not an absolute necessity to conduct cybercrime, but later on that one. And even more importantly, bulletproof hostings are themselves sometimes a liability for cybercriminals. One of the main problems when you just have a look at cybercrime forums where bulletproof hostings are offering their services, you see a lot of complaints from users about stability issues, about exit scams. So basically all the like normal problem that a cybercriminal can face, they will have to face it with bulletproof hostings. But you have to add on top of that stability issue. Because as this infrastructure is not always very stable, we are going to see that there are different types of hosting services. It can have an impact on operation. So let's say that the most advanced and the most serious bulletproof hostings have a very high uptime, but even they can have problems. For example, one of the bulletproof hosting that I've studied had some legal issue with one of its data centers, and the data centers simply cut access to the servers at some point because there was some payment disputes, and because of that, the whole service basically was down. Another example is when cyber criminals are very tough in terms of competition, and sometimes rival services will hack each other. What does it mean? It means that, for example, some bulletproof hosting may hire hackers to get inside the infrastructure of another one and simply wipe all of the data. This is a real example that happened and that was widely discussed on a Russian-speaking cybercrime forum. And like this is just another point of another proof that this type of hosting has its downsides, because they don't necessarily have backups, because maybe you don't want to have a backup for your illegal activities. So you need to understand that they are not adapted to any type of activities. And as we will see, cybercriminals not always choose them every time. Another very interesting example is law enforcement disruption. And I will just quote several cases that are, in my opinion, very revealing and very interesting. So, like in 2008, there was a bulletproof hosting service that was called MC Colo. So it was a US-based hosting provider that enabled spam botnets. Basically, it was just it was itself responsible for around 66% in global spam. So when the American journalist Brian Krebs published an article about them, basically they got what we called de-peered by upstream ISPs. So imagine that I'm going to talk about it later, but it means that they were basically unplugged from the internet. And all the spam traffic dropped very, very dramatically after that, which shows that there was a high concentration of this type of activity on this network. Another example, more recent, in 2016, the BPH was called Avalanche Network. So this bulletproof hosting was hosting 20 malware families, ransomware, banking trojans, phishing, and it was dismantled via massive domain seizure and sinkholing. So basically, it was an operation of law enforcement. In this case, that asked all the other providers to cut off the domains and remove the access to the IPs of this bulletproof from the internet. So another example. Then, more recently, we have other cases that are not as successful, but also very interesting. Have you heard about AESA Group? So we are going to talk about it a little bit later on, but AESA Group is a bulletproof hosting located in St. Petersburg, Russia, and it's mainly responsible for disinformation campaigns distributed by Russia, but also for cybercriminal hosting activities. So in this case, the operation, law enforcement operation, was not as successful because like the police tried to like impose sanctions on all of the people linked to this service, and also tried to conduct some depeering, but nevertheless the service is still up to date, like live today, and is still hosting malicious activity, as we're going to see. So this is just like some examples of like some of the most famous like takedowns and disruptions that occurred recently. And as we see, like they are not always successful. Like the best case scenario is when law enforcement can seize in the infrastructure, can unplug the IPs, the ISNs from the global internet, and can impose sanctions and, of course, arrest people. But sometimes when it's not possible, like the only thing that law enforcement will be able to do is just at least name and shame, which is like the least that they can do. But it's still an act, and it still put pressure on these infrastructure providers. Do we have any questions? No, for the moment, it's all good. So this is like another point that I wanted to make. Cybercriminals do not always need bulletproof hostings, and they perfectly know it. They are perfectly aware of that. So they will adapt their like where they host, like with their with what exactly they are doing, in what exactly they're trying to achieve. Very often, let's say that if you are hosting something like a leak site, like a C2 server, like a scanning or a spamming service, yes, you will need bulletproof hosting because like the infrastructure will be unstable. You will need to renew it, and like you basically need to have access to this type of service. But if you want to like if you want to conduct a very discrete operation, if you want to distribute malware without being detected, if you want to abuse legal and real infrastructure that is, that has a good reputation, IPs with good reputation, linked to major service providers like CDNs, Cloudflare, like AWS, Microsoft, where in these cases, it can be very interesting for cybercriminals, for threat actors, to do what we call living of trusted services. And there are several examples that I wanted to mention with you today that are in my opinion, very interesting examples of such cases. So one of them occurred in 2015, and it's linked to the Hammer-TOS malware. So it's basically a Russian state-sponsored malware that derived daily C2 instructions from Twitter. So what it was doing is it was fetching tasks from GitHub and cloud storages and exfiltrated data over the same trusted platform, like blending entirely into the normal traffic. So this is like an interesting example because the malware on the infected devices was coded to find the C2 addresses directly on Twitter. So it's like you cannot block Twitter. You know what I mean? It's super complicated. So it's a way to abuse real world services and hide. It's very hard to detect, and then it's very hard to block. Another example is Slub that occurred in 2019. So it's a targeted espionage malware that staged payloads on GitHub gists and used Slack channels as a live interactive C2 bus, turning a corporate messaging tool into a covert command channel. So once again, this is another example. In this case, it was GitHub and Slack that was used. Well, you have other examples such as Dark Hadris, which is a malware that is linked to an Iranian EPT. In this case, it used a full Google Drive-based C2 pipeline using authentication and file polling for both tasking and exfiltration. So, like once again, same idea: usage of Google Drive for C2 pipeline. Well, and like I could enumerate other examples, but I think you get the idea. You have also Hazy Beacon that was abusing AWS, and more recently, even Discord was used as a C2 transport. So as you can see, there are like different ways of abusing real-world services to distribute malware or like to have your C2s. And not only threat actors are doing that. Bulletproof hostings are also abusing trusted services. So, for example, last year there was an interesting case of a Chinese-related bulletproof hosting that had its own CDN, and that was basically abusing Microsoft and AWS IPs to hide various like malicious domains behind a CDN, behind these trusted IPs. So, like once again, it just showed that reality is not as simple as we might think. I'm just checking. Do we have any question? No, we don't. I assume that I'm super clear. If you don't have any question or super boring, so let's hope it's the first and not the latter. Another case that it's a real world case that illustrates this logic of using both legitimate service and both bulletproof hosting is a case that occurred last year, and that was revealed by last year leak. Have you heard about Blackbuster? Blackbuster was a ransomware that existed up until last year. So it's a Russia-based ransomware. And what happened last year, in like beginning of the year, is that all the internal chats of this ransomware group leaked. So why exactly they leaked? It's a different story. But what was interesting is that we could learn a lot from those chats, and that we could understand both how the structure, how the group was structured, but also which infrastructure it was using and for which case. So in terms of structure, like we could understand that it was basically running as a company. They had offices in Moscow. They were actually living in the offices, so they were renting like very beautiful like apartments there. And they had a very hierarchical structure with different teams doing different things. And you had one team that was basically responsible for providing hosting for like everyone else. And when I'm telling hosting, it's not only to store stolen data or to conduct exfiltration or to deploy ransomware. And of course, to deploy to host the website, the Tor panel and leak site of the Blackbuster group, but also to to have your C2 servers and these kind of things. And what we learned from these chats is that basically the group was using both bulletproof hostings and legitimate services. So, for example, in their case, I'm going to show you like it in another screen. Do you see the screen? Yes, you should. So, long story very short. This is like the guy who was responsible for infrastructure in the chat, and like this is some of the IP addresses that he shared, and that's what I basically could learn from them. So what was very interesting is that the main leak site, so the main Tor leak site, the place where you publish all the victims that you were able to hack and all of their data. Well, it was hosted at hetzner.d, so like a very legitimate and very normal service. And how exactly did they acquire it? Of course, because Hetzner is asking you some minimal information. It's asking you like your ID. It doesn't accept necessarily cryptocurrencies. It wants a credit card. So what they have done is that they have purchased this service through a reseller. So there is there was and there still is a ransomware that bulletproof hosting that is called VPS Scott, and it doesn't really have its own infrastructure. What it's basically doing is that it's purchasing services at legitimate hosting providers, and they are reselling them for cryptocurrencies to cybercriminals. And in this case, it reveals a very interesting point, is that Black Basta wanted its main leak site to be hosted at a very stable, very stable and very normal service. And the whole point was to obfuscate the real IP of where it was hosted. So as we are going to see, some ransomware groups are sometimes making some mistakes in the configuration of their Tor websites, and they are sometimes leaking the real IPs behind those websites. And of course, when this leak occurs, law enforcement can try to identify where the servers are and can conduct some operation and these kind of things. So the whole game, if for cybercriminals who are using legitimate services for hosting their websites or these kind of things, is to obfuscate them properly, either through a CDN like Cloudflare, or when they use Tor through a proper configuration. So in this case, the IP addresses were not leaking, but we were able to identify that those two websites were basically hosted there because it was mentioned in the chat. So as you can see, they were basically using both bulletproof hostings and normal hosting services. You have also some other ones that are nothing really crazy about them, and there are also mentions of cyber criminals that are present on forums, such as Jerry, who is running a very infamous bulletproof hosting service, and they were precisely contacting him to purchase servers for Cobalt Strike. So there was a real separation of what they were doing on each server. So you had some servers for FTP, you had some servers for hosting the website, you had some servers for C2 servers and these kind of things. So as we can see, reality is not necessarily black and white. It's a mix. It's a mix of both. So the most advanced cybercrime groups will basically use both normal hosting, offshore hosting, and bulletproof hosting. So now that we have gone through this introduction with definition, let's have a look at some historical examples. Do we have any questions? Yeah. Yes, exactly. So the Chinese BPH you referred to is it Funul? Yes, exactly. It's Funul. I'm going to share a link. I just read it basically this morning. That's why I did not include it in here, but yeah. So yeah, if you want to have a look at it, it's super interesting because the way they were able to hide the malicious domains behind several loops of CNAMEs and eventually behind a legit IP address. It's I really recommend you to have a look at this article. It's super interesting. Do the criminals use also infrastructure as code for bulletproof hosting? I do not entirely understand this question. Yeah, well, maybe if you can explain it better, I can answer it. But like that, I do not understand, so I don't want to tell something that is not true. Like Terraform. Well, I'm not aware. What is it? What is Terraform? Let me have a look. It's interesting. You're going to teach me some stuff today. That's wonderful. Okay, well, I cannot answer this question, but I will definitely do a follow-up on that. I need to have a look. have a look. So I don't want to tell you something that is not true. Thank you for the links. I will study it, but yeah, right now I cannot answer. Okay. So if we are good, now other questions. Let's continue and yeah. So we were talking about some like historical cases. And we already had a question about cyber bunker. So like very quickly, what it is and why it's kind of shaped and coined the whole idea of bulletproof hosting, like this terminology. At least it took a huge part in it. So like in mid 1990s, like the Dutch citizen, I think he was Dutch or German, Hermann John Xent, created his own hosting service inside a former NATO bunker in Zeeland, Netherlands. So you are going to see some pictures afterwards. It's a real bunker, like really like concrete, huge building, and he converted it into a place where he had his servers. So it's kind of interesting. And his leitmotif basically was that they are like cyber bunker is hosting anything except child abuse and terrorism. Well, reality is more complicated than that. There are some suspicion that at least child abuse was hosted there, but we're going to see it after all. So after it was established in the 1990s, it basically slowly become famous, as a landmark for freedom, for this kind of stuff. At least it was marketed in that way. And in around 2002, it had a kind of bad adventure, but I think this adventure is also revealing a lot about the type of activities and the type of mindset of the people who were behind this service. So apparently they were also cooking drugs in this bunker, and more precisely, they were cooking MDMA. So they had a lab, drug labs inside this bunker, and this lab caught fire and burned the entire building. Of course, it attracted also a lot of information from a lot of attention from law enforcement. And that's why the service kind of closed and had to move also elsewhere. So eventually, Mr. Xent opened again his hosting service in another country, in Germany, where he once again found a former German bunker, and he rebuilt the infrastructure inside. And this time, what happened is that around 2013, so the same year, Spam House, which is a service that we are going to talk about, Spam House basically blacklisted a lot of their domains, which was had a negative impact on the connectivity of the service, and also a negative impact on the reputation of the IP and of the hosting service. And in order to answer that, what Cyberpunker did is that they conducted one of the biggest DDoS attack, at least at that time, against Spam House in order to retaliate and to demonstrate that they were not happy about the fact that Spam House blacklisted their IPs. So just give you the idea of the mindset of people that were behind it. Eventually, around 2019, the German police got really tired of this activity, and they conducted a raid with over several hundreds of officers involved. They seized a huge amount of servers, and they were also able to conduct some research on the servers to see who was hosting what, and analyze what is the type of cybercriminal activities that was going on there, basically to conduct other law enforcement operation and dismantle some child abuse traffic. And this is kind of a very important point in like for this story, because there is a legal aftermath, at least for Germany, is that in this case the German court considered that the hosting service was in part responsible for what was hosted by its customer on their servers. So of course, like, it was a huge impact, a huge legal impact on other hosting services. So like, they have to be more careful, at least in Germany, with these type of things. So this is just like the picture, so you have an idea of how it's looking like. So it's a real bunker. I was not joking. Of course, it's more a marketing idea rather than something necessary or logical. I'm not sure that it's the best place to host, like, to have a data center inside, but it's just to show you that like the idea that that some bulletproof hosting are really using very dark and uncommon places to install the infrastructure is kind of true. And we are going to see that this is by far not the craziest example that that exists and that is real. Okay, let's go on. Do we have any questions? No, good. Another infamous case was a Russian business network. So this one was active around 2006 and 2007. And the Russian business network is actually the name of a Russian company located in St. Petersburg. Initially, it started as a legitimate internet service provider, but at some point, the owners of this service decided to pivot to cybercrime and to hosting cybercriminal activities, because it was simply more profitable than normal hosting. And this service was really very advanced, in the sense that the people who were behind it were technically extremely capable. If you really want to learn more about it, I joined like a link in the document that you have. It's a report made by David Bizel. It's an old report, but it's really excellent. Really, I advise you to read it. If the link doesn't work in the file that I gave you, just open it through Web Archive, so you will have the PDF. And it's not only super interesting to understand how like Russian business network functioned, but also to understand how to investigate bulletproof hostings. So like even today, it's the information is still relevant, and I really advise you to have a look. It's long, but it's really useful and interesting if you are interested in this topic. So like what was very interesting about this service is that they were excellent with infrastructure management. So it was very hard to unplug them, because they were very well interconnected to other autonomous systems and other servers, as we are going to see it later on. And that's why it was super hard for law enforcement just to unplug them from the internet, because by unplugging them, you could basically unplug a lot of other perfectly normal services. And this is the whole game of some advanced bulletproof hosting services, is that they are so well interconnected and so well involved in the normal hosting ecosystem and in the normal internet ecosystem, that they are making it hard both to be like not to be detected, but it's very hard to unplug them without consequences for other services. So eventually what happened is that this service attracted a lot of attention from law enforcement, from researchers, from journalists, and it's probably one of the most famous cases of bulletproof hostings that helped to coin the name of bulletproof hosting, and also the discipline among the CTI researchers of analyzing this type of hosting services. and eventually disappeared. So we don't really know exactly why, but the main idea is that it disappeared because it attracted too much attention, and it's probably it probably rebranded, and it probably also was replaced by competitors. So their case basically proved that you can make a lot of money out of cybercriminal hosting. So, for example, a report from VeriSign suggests that they made at least like $150 million from hosting these various things. So it just gives you an idea of how profitable this business was. Do you have any questions? Are we clear? Yeah, I think we are. Yeah, for someone who wants to produce threat intelligence, what tools platform can you use? Well, can you recommend for? Well, okay. Yeah. So I think my colleagues already sent you the document with all of the super useful tools. I will also be showing them later on in the presentation. But yeah, normally with this document you have everything that you need. Some of them are requiring more technical knowledge, especially if you are going to do a BGP investigation and these kind of things. But honestly, just with basic knowledge, you could already do some very interesting investigation. Great, let's move on. Oh, okay, so this one is a very interesting case. Another one which is called Abdallah WOST. So this service was run by a Ukrainian national. So I'm not doxing anyone, by the way. All of this information is public, and doxing is bad. Please don't do it. So in this case, the name was revealed by the American Secret Service. So Mr. Mikhailo Sergeyevich Rytkov was responsible for one of the most prolific and one of the most popular hosting services, bulletproof hosting services that existed from mid 2000s to late 2010s. And why did he attract so many attention from law enforcement, especially the American one? Why did he do to make them so mad that they anonymized him and that they put him on a sanction list? Well, basically the answer is quite simple: is that thanks to the servers that he provided, there was a huge carding operation that was conducted against several banks in the US, and like over 160 million credit card numbers got stolen. So it had a huge financial impact on the US, and they were really not happy about that. And that's why they basically managed to de-anonymize him. And because Ukraine is not extraditing anyone from Ukraine, so you can be judged in Ukraine for your crimes, but you will never be extradited. You have a lot of countries like that. France, for example, is not extraditing its nationals, I think. Russia also does not. Ukraine does not. So if someone commits any crimes against another country inside those countries, usually if there is some law enforcement cooperation, what will happen is that the person will be judged in his own country. But reality is unfortunately more complicated at that. Before the full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, cooperation between Western and Ukrainian law enforcement was not always super efficient. Let's put it that way. In Russia, it can work, it cannot work. It's really a matter of politics, in fact, as we are going to see. So this is just another example of how hard it can be also to prevent those infrastructure from rebranding and from restarting their activity, because it's basically what happened after the US law enforcement sanctioned and de-anonymized Abdallah. What he did, he just did a rebranding, and he became web host, then host. And what is also very interesting is that this service was kind of responsible for hosting like the majority of Russian-speaking underground forums and cybercrime forums. And one of the stories that goes around in the underground community, I cannot be sure if it's true or not, is that Mr. Ritkov was not really arrested or bothered a lot by Ukrainian police because he allegedly, and I underline the allegedly, collaborated with Ukrainian law enforcement by giving them access to his servers. So basically, he was supposedly given access to information about cybercriminals to Ukrainian and, of course, like I think also Western law enforcement. And one of the services that was really critical at that time was Jabber messaging service. I don't know. Have you heard about Jabber? Jabber is a very old messaging platform, not platform, but service protocol, XMPP protocol, that is still to this day kind of very popular among cybercriminals. It has to be centralized, so you have to have a server to run it. And in this case, the Jabber service of exploit in forum was allegedly hosted at web host or host. So he could have transmitted some of the cybercriminal discussions, everything that was basically not encrypted. Yeah, exactly. But don't forget to turn on OTR. Exactly. So basically, everything that was not encrypted with OTR could have, I underline the could have, been intercepted by the Ukrainian law enforcement. After that, Mr. Abdallah also had some other issues with Ukrainian police. We are going to see a red on his servers that occurred recently, like in 2019. I'm going to show you how it looked like. And lately, we don't really know if this person continues his activity or not. Like, did he rebrand? Did he restart his activity? Like, we don't know. So I will not speculate on that. But I want to show you something interesting. I think you will like it. So this is a video from the Ukrainian police that protected precisely against exactly how it was hidden and where the servers were located. So as you can see, it's a normal house. Yes, it's probably a little bit messy, but then when you get inside, you discover this thing. So what do you think it is? It is a diesel generator. Yeah, well, not a test, but yeah. So why someone normal would have a huge electricity diesel generator inside a house? Well, the answer for that is probably because you don't want to disclose that you have a huge electricity consumption. And if power goes down, maybe you don't want that your server room goes down with it also. So we can see that there are a lot of cables, and those cables are going underground. And we are going to see where they. I'm going to accelerate it a little bit. Okay. So here is the interesting part. Oh, they discovered a button. Wow. There is an underground. So, some myths about, bulletproof hosting services being in crazy places are true. It's really the minority, the very, very small minority of bulletproof hosting services, but some of them are really located in such places. As we're going to see today, they are even with guns. Wow, crazy. As you Yeah, so as we will see, like majority of bulletproof hosting services, their rack services servers are like in normal places, like in data centers. They don't really do this kind of crazy stuff, but this is like the most advanced and the most yeah, the most crazy that you can get with these kind of things. Yeah, so as you can see, like, yeah, well, a little bit of money, why not? Um, yeah, well, you get the idea basically. Let's go back to another example. Yeah, I will share all the slides so you'll have access to the video. The video is not listed on YouTube; it's delisted, so you can not really find it. I have no idea how myself I stumbled on that. I think it was posted on a cybercriminal forum, but like, yeah, it's really a gem. This video, I really love it. A last example that was also like very famous and that got spoken a lot about is a bulletproof hosting that's called AESA. It's still active to this day. And it shows that even like when law enforcement are trying to take some action and are trying to unplug you from the internet or even sanctioning people who are linked to you and to your bulletproof hosting service, well, it doesn't work always, unfortunately. So why AESA was famous? Actually, it became famous thanks to our article written by Quirim and by another service. I don't remember which one is it. Yeah, by Disinfolab. So the article was published, the research was published in July 2024, and it was an analysis of the things that were hosted on this bulletproof hosting service, and it was mainly linked to Russian state disinformation campaign that was called Doppelganger. And what was Doppelganger? It was basically a huge amount of fake news websites. So it was copies of real websites of like I don't know, any big, like the Times or whatever you want. And on those copies, threat actors created like fake articles about I don't know, Ukraine, about the West, about NATO, and these kind of things. And the goal was kind of to like disseminate it as much as possible through social media and make it really as plausible and as like as plausible as possible for someone who will not check, just open it and not see that the domain is not actually from the Times, but like something that is very close to the legitimate domain of the Times, but still, like if you don't pay attention, just by the look of the website itself, you can be fooled and you can think that you are on the real thing, on the real website. So what happened to AESA in like last year was super interesting. Is that its CEO got arrested and sanctioned. Like first, he got sanctioned in the US and the West, obviously, and he also got arrested in Russia. And this is kind of interesting because it doesn't happen very often. And like one of the reasons why like the CEO Yuri Bozoyan could have been arrested is also because AESA was not only like distributing disinformation websites and these kind of things, but also hosted drugs marketplaces. Like for example, one of the like most infamous one of them in Russia, which is Black Sprout. And Black Sprout, like there are others drug marketplaces. There's a permanent conflict between those marketplaces because drugs are generating a huge amount of money, and they are also generating a huge amount of corruption amongst officials, of course. But in this case, it seems that Russian police didn't like at all the fact that AESA was hosting this marketplace, drugs marketplace, and officially it's because of that he got arrested. So apparently they were not really disturbed by the fact that there was a huge disinformation campaign that was running through the hosting of AESA, and that AESA was also a host for malware families such as Luma and Medusa infostealers, for phishing campaigns, for scam traffic, this kind of stuff. They even hosted a credential theft market like shop.esn.esu. Well, apparently this was not really the problem for Russian police, or at least officially not only the problem. And the things that conducted to the arrest could be more linked to the drugs marketplace. Just to give you an idea about how it was looking like, you can see some of the screenshots from the reports from Curium. So this is screenshots of posts on Twitter. So this was the main dissemination model, but basically they were also doing exactly the same through Meta, and they are still up to this day doing exactly the same through Meta. So for example, on Twitter, what they will be doing is that they will be creating a huge amount of bot accounts, and copy and paste these fake articles. On Meta, it's a little bit more sophisticated, because they will not only create fake accounts, obviously what they need to do, but they will also pay for advertisement. So this is a kind of touchy topic, because from one side, Meta claims that they are doing a lot of things to prevent those paid campaign to be advertised on Facebook and on Instagram. From another side, CTI researchers who are studying the advertisement market on Meta are basically telling that Meta is not doing enough, and that they are kind of taking profit from these disinformation campaigns that are advertised. So I will not take any positions on that. I know that it's super complicated probably to eliminate all of those disinformation campaigns, but probably well, you get the idea. So maybe last point before we are going to dive in a little bit into the typology. What also has changed dramatically since several years, and more precisely from last year, is that law enforcement is also kind of adapting and trying to be more proactive and more efficient in taking down those bulletproof hosting services. And it's also linked to the evolution of the bulletproof hosting services themselves. As we are going to see, they're less what we call monolithic bulletproof hosting services, and more services that are kind of diversified, and that as we are going to see, they are not really owning the totality of their infrastructure. We are going to talk a bit about that a little bit later on. But the main idea is that law enforcement is today trying not only to seize servers, to take servers, and to arrest the owner. They are also trying to target the whole ecosystem. So they will sanction shell companies. They will try to unplug the hosting from the internet. They will also strike at upstream connectivity. So basically, they will ask people who give access to the autonomous system names of these hosting services to basically delete them and stop giving them connectivity. They will also track the financial flows through cryptocurrency exchanges. In this case, companies such as Chainalysis and Ethereum Labs are really the leaders, and they have a huge amount of cryptocurrency addresses that are associated with those services. So they basically can understand who paid when and for what, or at least to some extent. And this is also useful because it can help assess how profitable these kind of businesses are, but also track the money laundering paths. Because of course, after cryptocurrency needs to be cashed out, and this is like a very sensitive part, because once you have cash, you need to launder it in a way. So of course, law enforcement are also trying to analyze these steps. So we see that law enforcement are kind of stepping their games, but this is also the case for bulletproof hosting. Let me have a quick look. Do we have any question? For CTI, do you think researching, okay, well, I think it's the same question that I had previously. No. For CTI, do you think researching BPH services is a great strategy for investigating other threat intelligence pathways? Well, I think yes, but it depends really of your use case and of your situation. Let's say that, I don't know, if you're at a company and you're permanently being targeted by, I don't know, spam, like spam campaigns, or you see that there is a connectivity, like a DDoS attack, or I don't know, these kind of things that occur, and you can see that there are some IPs that you can attach to a precise infrastructure, to a precise autonomous system names, to a precise organization. Then in this case, yes, it makes sense, because you can basically understand where the malicious activity is hosted, and you can then you can send some abuse and some complaints for a takedown. Well, if you're not lucky, at least then you can use services such as the Spam House, that will also list and blacklist these kind of services. So it can be interesting, and of course it can be interesting if you can monitor the whole IP ranges that are malicious, because it will show you that what type of activities is occurring there. But it supposes that you have access to tools that allow you to monitor activity. If you don't have access to these kind of things, you have tools such as gray noise, for example, that are not very costly or even free, that can kind of tell you what type of activity is occurring on an IP range or an AS. For example, I'm going to show it right here. Yeah, I wanted to show it later on, but you get the idea. So in this case, I search for this autonomous system name that belongs to PF Cloud. PF Cloud, that is kind of bulletproof hosting, that also is reselling its IP addresses to other services and to other bulletproof hostings. So it's a kind of middleman, as we are going to see. And you can see in here that they are just for this AS, there are around 112 IP addresses that are associated with a malicious activity, 27 that are suspicious, and 149 that are unknown. And you have some more information here, with the type of malicious activity that occurs. So you can basically assess if it's interesting for you or not. Does it answer your question, rabbit hole? I hope yes. So let's do a little bit of typology very quickly and understand what type of sorry. Yes. Okay. Perfect. What type of services exist and how we can classify them. You have basically two approaches to classify bulletproof hosting services, either by capabilities or by their structure. So the first one, this approach was kind of invented by Trend Micro, is the one that I used in my blogs also. I adapted it to Huawei, but it's really I joined also the report from Trend Micro. It's it's a little bit old now, but once again, the methodology and the idea behind it is really wonderful, and I really advise you to read it. So this diagram is from their report. I just adapted it for the sake of this presentation, but all merit goes to them. So in this case, basically we can classify bulletproof hostings by capability in three categories. The services that are going to cost the less are mostly going to resell you compromised or stolen assets. So what does it mean? It means that if a threat actor simply retrieved from information from InfoSilos logs, they retrieve the credentials to connect to an AWS server or these kind of things. Well, they can basically steal it and resell it. The main point, the main advantage of this type of hosting services is that the IP addresses are going to be not blacklisted. They are going to be highly trusted by other services. But the downside, of course, is that the stability of this service is going to be very low, and this server can be the real owner of this server can ask Amazon or any other service provider to give it back to him. So the lifespan of this service will be super short, and of course everything that you will be doing on this server will be logged, and there is basically no privacy at all. So if you store anything super confidential or malicious, or you don't want to be discovered, this is not the place to do that. But it's mostly used to conduct scanning, brute forcing, and spamming attacks. So for this type of short-lived campaigns, it's just perfect, and it's basically good for that. Then you have bulletproof hostings with some kind of infrastructure. By that I mean that they are usually buying IP ranges from other services. They are buying they will be reselling access to other servers. So mostly it's people who are going to resell you things, or just sub-rent IP ranges and hosting services. So once again, no secrecy. If some abuse complaints will get received by the owner, it will be basically unplugged almost in the second. So it's not really done to resist to abuse complaints, but it's good for short-term campaigns and for phishing, for these kind of things. So it's a little bit more resistant in terms of time that the compromised assets, but still nothing perfect. And very often it's marketed as bulletproof by the owner, but in fact it's absolutely not bulletproof at all, and it doesn't really resist to abuse complaints. And eventually you have the last type of service. So this one has its own infrastructure. It can, or at least it's collocating them in a data center. So it's basically the case of Abdallah or host that I showed you in the video. This is the most advanced cases. Those guys, they own they own their infrastructure. They very often have a status of local internet registry. They very often own entire IP ranges. They very often own autonomous system names. So it's a much more structured and much more well organized entity. And in this case, the best use case is going to be to store and to host there your critical infrastructure. So everything that you want not to lose, everything that you need to keep, you will be basically hosting there. So this is the most advanced part, and usually it's kind of rather it can be very abuse resistant, in the sense that when you are going to contact those guys, and they will very often ask you, what exactly do you want to perform, what exactly you want to do on their service, and depending on your answer, they will give you a specific IP, a specific host that they know will be the best adapted to this type of activity. So let's say if you want to store, if you want to host something really, really very illegal or sensitive, like terrorism or this kind of stuff, well, they will give you a server that is expandable for them, but that is still kind of stable, and they will help you to obfuscate your domain, for example, and to obfuscate your website, so nobody can find the real IP and the real place where all of these things are hosted. So they will be not only providing you a hosting service, but they can also provide advanced services such as fast flu services. Like very swiftly on fast flu, we don't really have time. Like a fast flu service is something that is going to rotate IP addresses on A record and sometime on like NS records. So it's very hard for someone who is investigating this domain to understand where it's really hosted, and it's very hard to perform a takedown because like the IPs are permanently rotated. So this is like some of the most advanced services that are offered, but just to give you an idea. Do you have any question? Yeah, knowledge customer service in crime. Yeah, well, honestly, this is like the value of what some of those services are advertising on forums. They are really like putting forward the fact that they're not only going to give you infrastructure, give you hosting services, but also advise you where to purchase your domain names, how to obfuscate properly your website. So it's not only not only a hosting, it's also an entire like service. So this is another type of typology. This one like is from Spamhaus, and it's basically depicting a shift in the way bulletproof hostings are functioning today. So previously, most bulletproof hosting were kind of monolithic in the sense that it was the same entity who was like either owned the data center or was located in a data center. They like owned the hardware. They were like owning all the autonomous system names. They were owning the IP ranges, IP prefixes, and like managing the customer relationship, these kind of things. So this type of bulletproof hosting service still exists. It's a minority. It's mostly located in like places where law enforcement cannot really have a big impact. So mostly Russia or like Southeast Asia, these kind of places. But what we witness right now is that there is a shift, and there is what we call like appearance of other type of services that are more divided and are functioning in a different way. In this case, for example, like the person who is going to advertise the service will not own the IP addresses. It's going to be purchasing them from a reseller. The reseller is going to not own the autonomous system names, is going to like buy it from someone else. And so basically it's a way to like not only to make the system more complicated, but also to dilute responsibility. Because if you have several entities that can be responsible for something, in fact, nobody is responsible for anything. And this is like a type of service that we see right now. They are like hosting services that are not providing directly bulletproof hosting to customers. What they will do is that they will resell IP ranges and servers and capabilities, hardware, I mean, to others who will do the dirty business for them. And those others will have like their own front companies, their own shell companies. So to investigate it, it's kind of a nightmare, and it requires a very good understanding of like how the whole system works. So very quickly, this is like a summary from Spamhaus. Like what is the difference from like a monolithic BPH and non-monolithic BPH? So they basically gave you two examples of two services located in Deutschland. So in the case of the monolithic VPH, the server VPS offering like full public-facing website, easily attributable to involve entities. And in the case of a non-monolithic VPH, so shell corporation with no public-facing website, advertised on underground forums and via Cloudflare hosted website. So basically, it gives the idea. Everything is like separated, and it's very hard to follow. You will have the slides anyway, and I will send you the link also. You also have the link to Spamhaus article, so if you want to have a closer look, you can. So let's have a very quick look at like how this typology can be applied to the real world, both the capability typology and the monolithic with non-monolithic typology. So this is a screenshot that I took yesterday from XSS. So this is, to this date, one of the most prominent Russian-speaking cybercrime forum. And I went simply to the section that is the place where all of the hosting services are advertising. So as we can see, like you have some people who will advertise proxy, some people who will advertise like bulletproof, abuse-resistant servers. Some people will like tell you that everything is anonymous and this kind of stuff. But what is interesting is that I made a study basically a few years ago, and I kind of like made a list of all of those services that existed at that point. And like I was kind of surprised because this image was produced 3 years ago, and almost nothing changed. Like it's really very funny because, like, yes, sure, some services disappeared, some new services appeared, but like if you can see on this image in 2024, for example, there was a service that Lux Host that appeared. Well, it's still there. Beer Host that appeared in 2019 is still there. So a lot of those services that like are still advertised on one of these forums are still present. And what is also interesting is that by just investigating a little bit like what these people write, the communication handles they share, you can very easily understand that a lot of them, in fact, are the same entity. So it's once again, it highlights that you can have several brands, several selling channels, but behind it might be the same people. So, for example, in this case, it's very easy just by reading the forum to understand that Beer Host, that was created in 2019, is also underground, created in 2021, is also Tuna Stock, created in 2016, is also Voodoo Servers, created in, well, at least advertised in 2023. I think it's older than that in reality. So you basically get the idea. Some of them are just like fronts, and even different accounts can be controlled by the same people. Now, when we were speaking about kind of capabilities, so what exactly are those services offering? So among the around 40 that 40 services that I studied back then, but it's still very valid today. Majority of them was offering like a VPS or like virtual private server or a virtual dedicated server. Like some of them were also selling domains, which is once again like it highlights that it's not only about hosting; it's also about the whole infrastructure, the whole things that you need to conduct cybercrime. Some of them also were like selling VPNs, proxy services, fast flu. Some of them were also clearly stating that they had a local internet registry status and that they could either sell you entire AP ranges or like autonomous system names. So this is basically very interesting for other services who want to resell. Like, yeah, if you want to open a bulletproof hosting service and you don't want to register anything, you go to those guys, you buy from them, and you basically resell. So you build your own offering, you build your own pricing, and as long as you pay the lire, bulletproof local internet registry that is advertising on this forum, they are basically happy. This one is, I think, also very interesting, especially the slide on the left side. It shows you what bulletproof hosting services claim that they allow on the service and what they do not allow. So this is just purely claims. We cannot really trust it, but it gives you a good hint of what is authorized and what is forbidden. So as you can see, some of the most like common authorized activities are like everything that is linked to piracy, so DMCA. You can also conduct spam. You can also conduct brute force, scan, mass scan, pen test, hacking, phishing, malware, botnet, DDoS, porn, spoofing. When we look at what is explicitly forbidden, so obviously child pornography, targeting the community of independent states. So it's like Russia, Belarus, Kazakhstan. So your activity must not target these places. Terrorism, extremism, weapons. And like just for you to understand, these three categories, the three first categories, are usually mentioned to protect legally the hosting service. I think like if you do it anyway, if they don't take down your service, they don't really care. So it's more a way for them to protect themselves rather than a real constraint. And yeah, you can see that some of them also like forbid drugs and this kind of stuff. So all of this, like taken together, if you remember the capability typology of Trend Micro, like I could classify basically the 40 services that I was studied in the like different tiers. So majority of them are just basically people who are going to sell you, who are going to sell to threat actors stolen and like stolen assets and stolen hostings accounts. Some of them like around 16 are kind of in the middle. They have some infrastructure, but not something very extensive, and only a minority like has a Leo status, has their IP ranges, like has their own data center, or is at least collocating it somewhere. So like this is precisely what gave me the idea of the title of 50 Shades of Bulletproof Hosting, because as you can see, the reality is really, really huge between each service. So yeah, well, I'm going to speed up. Let's maybe just have a look. Do we have any questions? No, we don't have any questions. Wonderful. So let's continue. So yeah, let's have a quick look at the thing that I was mentioning previously. The fact that BPH are shifting from monolithic to like a scattered system. So the members of this scattered system are called by Recorded Future. They are called threat activity enablers. So basically, it can be a data center, it can be an IP broker, it can be a transit provider, it can be a hosting reseller, it can be a payment service. Because like you need to understand that a lot of these services, what they were doing previously, that to accept a payment on cryptocurrency, they were simply sharing you like a crypto address on which you could pay, and that was basically it. The problem with this approach is that it's not scalable. You need to always keep track of who paid for what, and it's also super easy to track because if a threat actor shares with you like a wallet that was already used, well, you can already see through the blockchain all the payments that occurred there. It's very easy to track. So it's not very it's not really good for anonymity of their own payment system. So what they are doing right now is that they are mostly using service providers for cryptocurrency payments, such as CryptoMouse. I think, yeah, it's CryptoMouse. It's one of the most famous of them, and I think Brian Krebs wrote an article about them maybe last year. So if you want to have a look, it's kind of very interesting. And what CryptoMouse are doing is that they're basically acting as a proxy, as an intermediary between you and the BPH service. So it's much harder to follow the path of the crypto, and it's more harder to find the real wallets of the services. So once again, like, it just shows you the fact that the system is breaking apart. Now, some example of like great like threat activity enablers that we are aware of. One of the like the one that made a lot of noise lately was probably Orologic. So Orologic is a hosting service that basically is reselling its own infrastructure to others. So itself, it's not going to be linked to any malicious activity, but it's going to enable other bulletproof hosting services to conduct this activity by selling them IP ranges, by selling them also autonomous system names that are absolutely necessary to for internet connectivity. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on, but you get the idea. Another one that was also interesting is virtual line technologies, also known as Railnet. So it's a bulletproof hosting advertised on cybercriminal forums. If you want, I can have a look and just show you what their accounts. Yeah, it's going to be another one, but yeah, let's do it right now. So this is basically a Flare platform, and what I'm doing right now is that I'm looking for this keyword. Yeah, okay, so it was super easy. So you see that virtual line is basically advertising both under its commercial name and under its threat actor name under the same entity, and they are present on various forums and on Telegram. So yeah, you basically get the idea. Let's come back. So what was interesting about virtual line is that they have zero downstream autonomous systems and only two upstream, Orologic and PF Cloud. So what does it mean? It means that they are at the bottom of the internet. And it means that if law enforcement wanted to unplug them, it could be super easy. But they are kind of protected by the entities that are above them, in this case, Orologic and PF Cloud. And this is like what is making it very difficult. Just from a technical perspective, because they are at the bottom, it could be very easily to unplug them. But because there is an entity above that is protecting them, and that is basically help them to stay connected, well, it makes it harder for law enforcement to act. So you get the idea. There are other examples. I'm going to show you the slides. If you want, you can explore it. Now let's just have a very quick focus on some technical aspects of investigation. So you have the basic ideas of how to do that. It's really not advanced. I'm not maybe the best person to teach that. So I really suggest you to have to take some time and to look at the resources that I shared, because it requires you to test and to do it by yourself to really learn. But I think you will get the idea quite fast. Do we have any questions? What are the requirements or steps to access the Flare platform for CTI? Okay, so you can basically go on our website. You can go on our website and you can ask for a trial. We are requiring you to connect from share your corporate email. So we are going to verify if your company is existing, because we really don't want to share like any access to people that might be malicious and not really into CTI, not really into cybersecurity. So in order to get access to our platform, you need to go for a very short screening and basically prove that yes, you are a real individual, you are working for a real company, and that you have a legitimate need to access the platform, which is nothing complicated if it's the case. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the internet and how it works, because I was talking a lot about like regional internet registries, about local internet registries, about autonomous system names and numbers, about IPs, blocks, and these kind of things. But I didn't really explain why is it important, and I think it's the moment to do that. So how internet works on like in terms of infrastructure. Basically, what happens is that you have an entity that is called EANA. So it's basically the Internet Assigned Numbered Authority that has, among other things, two missions. So the main two missions are to allocate IP blocks to regional internet registries, and to allocate autonomous system names and numbers to the same regional internet registries. So once it's done, you have like 5 regional internet registries. Each one of them is responsible for a specific geographical location. So, for example, RIPE is responsible for Europe, Middle East, Central Asia, Russia. REN is responsible for North America and parts of Caribbean. APNIC is responsible for Asia Pacific, and LACNIC is responsible for Latin America and Caribbean. And eventually, AFRINIC is responsible for Africa. So each one of these entities is then going to distribute and basically sell like IP blocks and ISN to like your local internet providers, to mobile phone companies, to these kind of things. So to any hosting companies, they are going to sell it to what we call local internet registries. So local internet registries, it can be your internet provider, it can be like a small hosting service. It can also be a company that needs to have its own IP blocks and own ISNs, like that needs to own its own internet infrastructure, at least from a like IP point of view. And so as you can understand, it can be a lot of different entities at the same time. So once the regional internet registry allocates IP blocks to local internet registries, what they can do is that they can assign those IP blocks to end customers. So this is the easiest case. Like if I want like to purchase IP blocks or one IP address from like I don't know, my internet service provider, I will be the end user, and in this case, it's end of the story. I cannot really resell it. But you can also have another status, which is suballocation, and this one is more complicated because suballocation can, like, you can do it several times. So, for example, my ISP can suballocate an IP range to me, but I can then suballocate it to someone else if my ISP gives me the authorization to do that. But you understand that there are several layers potentially involved there. Then, like we have on the other side of the diagram, we have the ISN allocation. So as we're going to see, ISNs are super important. It's basically groups of policy for BGP. So I'm going to explain it on the next slide. It's going to be much easier. Yes. So imagine, like right now, just for the IPv4, we have over 4 billion IP addresses. Imagine if you want to go from like your computer to a hosting server somewhere, I don't know, in North America. You need to find a path to go there. And this is basically the mission of BGP protocol that is going to help you find this path thanks to what we call autonomous system groups. So why do we have to create them? Because imagine if you have 4 billion IP addresses, we cannot allocate, a specific policy and specific path to follow for each one of these 4 billion addresses. It will be simply insane. It will be too much. So the easier way to do that is to create groups that we call autonomous system names, IS, autonomous systems. And those groups are going to have their own IP ranges inside of them, and they will apply the same routing policy to all of those IP ranges. So the main goal of BGP is to basically create contacts between those ISN groups and like ensure that each group can communicate between each other and tell, okay, I'm responsible for those IP groups, and I'm connected to an IS system that is above me, and I'm also peering to another system name. I'm going to show you on the next slide, so it's basically easier to understand. But the main idea here is that autonomous system names are simply necessary to create routing policies, because there is simply too much IP addresses to do it just individually. Is it clear? Yes, it's a very good point. It's a very good point, but for the moment, it's basically the same story as with Whois and LDAP. Like LDAP is a replacement of Whois, but Whois is still massively used. Same story with IPv4 and IPv6. So theoretically, IPv6, there is an infinite number of IPv6. I don't even know how big it is. I don't remember it. But a lot of companies and a lot of services will prefer to use another system that is they are accustomed with, and that is easier for them to use, and that is basically more compatible with their infrastructure. So let's see how things go, but this is the main issue here. So on this screen, what I want to understand is that BGP basically has several layers. Let's start with what's going on the top layer. So what is going on the top layer is that BGP enables networks to exchange routing information. Each autonomous system announces its IP prefixes and learns path to others. So this layer builds the global routing map for the internet, basically. So as we can see, the kind of relationship that can exist between an IS, it can be peering, customer, and client. So in the case of peering, it means that there is there are some agreements. There is an agreement between two IS that they are going to share connectivity together. So it's a horizontal relationship, if you want. If an IS is above another one in the tree of the IS systems, in this case, it will be basically above it, so it will sell the service of connecting to the rest of internet. So the system, the IS that is under it, will have to pay transit rights to access the rest of the internet, basically. So what you see in the middle, of the screen, is the internet connectivity, the fact that it's structured by relationship. So transit creates dependency. Downstream networks rely on upstream providers. Peering connects equal networks directly, often through an internet exchange point. So I'm not going to get in what is an internet exchange point. Basically, it's a hardware system that is located very often in big cities, in big data centers. But it's the things that allow big streams of internet to connect between different countries and between different systems. And eventually, what you see on the bottom side of the screen is the traffic flow itself, how the data flow. So the traffic flows from the route defined by BGP policies. So it's going to be from the top AS, and it will go down to the one that is at the bottom. And of course, if your service is at the bottom, is on an IP on the bottom of the IS tree, it will have to go through several layers before reaching the top of it. Well, I hope it was clear. I really encourage you to have a look by yourself about this system, about how it works. It seems complicated. In fact, it is and it's not at the same time. Just like another site to basically conclude this. So what you see basically is on the left side of the screen that an IS system can provide transit rights, or it can be peering rights. So why is it interesting in the case of bulletproof hosting investigation? As I mentioned previously, you had some cases of as whole some bulletproof hosting services are really at the bottom of the IS system, and therefore it's very easy to unplug them. On the other side, some very talented bulletproof hosting owners manage to create a lot of interconnectivity between their own infrastructure and between the global internet, and not place it at the bottom of the global traffic, but really in the middle of it. So they are really a core part of this system. So it's much harder to disable these kind of services. So this is the main idea that I wanted you to keep in mind. Very quick word on what is also what you will see when you will basically investigate an IP address. You will see what is the IP range to which it belongs, and you will see which organization is owning it or which organization is suballocating it. So this is basically the idea, and in this case, it's a real example where you can see that in this case, this IP range is suballocated, and the real owner is not is not super hub. It's an entity that is above it, and I'm going to show you later on how to find it. Let me make a small break. See, do we have any question? How does the landscape vary for IPv6, if it does, and is OSPF also used instead of BGP? Okay, so for BGP, I know that it's still the main thing, and really it's the most easily and retrocompatible thing. When we come back to IPv6, it's mostly not used by cybercriminals yet. I know that some cybercriminals who are doing spamming attacks and this kind of stuff are starting to using IPv6, but it's really marginal if you compare it with the majority of cybercriminal activity. This is one thing. Another thing is that also the majority of CTI services and the majority of companies that are investigating bulletproof hosting are very, very much focused on IPv4. So maybe we have a gap here, and maybe we don't see maybe we don't see like everything that is going on IPv6, but for the moment, the reality is that IPv4 remains really the main layer, the main tool for cybercriminals and for bulletproof hostings. So like at AWS, if I want to know who owns the AWS subnet, will that subnet will that be suballocated or something else? Can I get names when checking fish IOCs? Well, for AWS, I think you will not get any information. If it's like, if you go to AWS and create your own server, like purchase your own server, it will not really like tell you who is like, it will be basically like assigned. It will not. It will be assigned to AWS, so you will not be seeing the real entity that is behind it. What can happen is that if AWS is reselling to someone entire IP ranges, IP blocks, yes, in this case it's possible, but not in the case of like a normal AWS hosting. Yeah, why is the preference for v4 versus v6? Well, basically because it's like a legacy service, and that it's like legacy. It means they are more used to work with it. It's also easier to purchase and then more common in terms of infrastructure. So I would tell that maybe some illicit activity is going to be easier to detect on IPv6. But once again, like we see that there are like more and more like criminal activity on IPv6, but we might have a gap on that to know to which extent it happens now. Yeah, I agree with you, Andrea. Okay, let's accelerate, because if not, we are not finishing it, and I don't want to keep you here for the whole day. So this is just some very common example of how you could start an investigation. Let's say that one of the easiest way to find malicious activity on different IPs is to go to open sources like Alien Vault, and just have a look at like IP addresses and the type of malicious activity you are interested in. Then once you select an IP address, you can try to investigate it. And more interestingly, like you can try to look what type of activity was detected on it. I think like the easiest way to do that is either like by looking for malicious an IP where you had a malicious activity detected, but also then to look at the organization and the IS itself, because the fact that one IP in an entire range or in an entire IS was used for a malicious purpose doesn't tell you anything about the infrastructure itself. It can be very well an exception and nothing really crazy, nothing really interesting. So in this case, like we can see that this IP address is linked to PF Cloud. So I already spoke about them, but they are a very well-known reseller of IP addresses and of like this kind of activities. So we can directly pivot on the organization itself. And we can see that there are entire like a lot of IP ranges that are associated with malicious activity. But we can also pivot on the IS linked to this IP, because we know that this IS also belongs to the same entity, which is PF Cloud. And one of the good way to basically investigate it is to when you start with an IP is to look at where it is. Let's look at the who is info. Yeah, you basically need to find that. This is the organization number, organization name linked to PF Cloud. And once you have this this organization name, you can do whois query either through like a website like IPinfo or through your terminal directly, as I was like kind of showing here with this type of commands. So for example, here I asked RIPE to give me information about this organization, which is PF Cloud. So I ask it to give me all the autonomous system names that are linked to PF Cloud. And this is the best way to like see what they have, what else they have, because in gray gray noise we've seen this AS. We know that they control it directly, but we didn't see this AS that is under a different name. So probably PF Cloud is reselling this AS like to another entity. And this is like a very good example of reselling behavior. Another interesting thing that I also suggest you to have a look at is Spam House. So they list like all of the malicious ISN and malicious organizations that they can find. So for example, if you look for IESA, you have like several ISNs that are like linked to them. You have also Shangwei, which is like, we're going to talk about them a little bit later on, which is a beer host. Well, so it's very, like, if you want to train, honestly, it's a very good point to start and to investigate and to see like how things are linked to each other, who is above them, who is their upstream, do they have any downstreams, who they work with. So it's really super useful for that. So once again, like if we just look at this IS belonging to PF Cloud, you can see that all of those like IP ranges, some of them belong to PF Cloud directly, some do not, because this is an important point. Inside the same ISN, you can have IP blocks, IP prefixes that do not belong to the same organization. It's not because the ISN belongs to PF Cloud that all the IP ranges inside belong to PF Cloud. But in this case, what is very interesting is that PF Cloud is a known enabler. So they are known for helping other bulletproof hosting services to and other like hosting services to be connected to the internet. And we can see that among the IP ranges inside the ISN, there is one that is linked to an entity that is called vmheaven.io. So just by like opening some of their IPs, we can go on their website, and like what we see that privacy first hosting without limits. So yeah, no KYC, all the usual stuff. So it doesn't mean that this is a bulletproof hosting, but it's very clearly offshore hosting. And then something that I did, like which is very common, you just make a search for this domain or just for this brand name on forums. And in this case, we can see that they are very active on Telegram with over like 30,000 posts, but they're also mentioned on Cracked, on Patched, on Hack. So yeah, like basically there are a lot of people talking about them, and you understand that the type of activity that is ongoing there is probably something not really legal, but yeah, you get the idea. So yeah, I'll share with you all of the tools in these tabs. You have it also in the document. We don't really have time to go through all of them. It will take take really a lot of time, and we are already almost at the end of this presentation. So I really encourage you to explore all of it. Like I could not cover it in the time that we have, but like only a basic knowledge could already help you a lot. Honestly, if you use IPinfo, it could be already enough for you to do basic investigation and to understand who is connected to what. You don't necessarily need to go very deep into BGP. I don't think it's really useful. Yeah, in terms of CTI, I really encourage you to have a look at stuff like Spam House, Abuse IPDB, Gray Noise. All of those services are super useful. AnyRun, Alien Vault, both to find find information, but also to pivot on information. Yeah. So asset discovery engines, yeah, the usual stuff. I'm not going to waste your time on that. Who is? Well, this is like some of them are paid tools. If you have an access to domain tools, Iris Investigate, you can really do crazy stuff because they have like a very, very extensive passive DNS database, and it really helps you to pivot around different things. Yeah, well, then you have like OSINT tools. I'm not going to dive into that. Very quickly, I'm going to show you an investigation that I made like several years ago. Everything that I'm going to present here, basically you can now find it. It's public source. I still anonymized some of the things because I don't want to dox the people who are behind the bulletproof hosting that I'm going to talk to you about. But just by searching for beer host on the internet, you are going to find very easily what I'm talking about and who the people are. I just don't want to do any doxes because, you know, like if I'm wrong in my assessment, it can be really, really bad. So this, what you are seeing right now, it's like an example of misconfiguration of a ransomware website that I was talking to you earlier on. So in this case, they kind of exposed, I don't know if you can see it on the left side of the screen, when you were hovering over like any FTP URL, they were kind of exposing the entire IP address of the FTP server. So they were basically telling you where exactly they were storing all the stolen data. So just by having a look at this IP, at that time, this IP was linked to an organization that was called Shangwei Technologies Co. Limited. And just by doing a search on RIPE or like any other sources that I gave you, you can find a lot of information about these local internet registries. It still exists to this day. It was mostly disconnected from internet. It's mostly inactive right now, but it's like the shell itself still exists. And what is interesting is that we have like a domain, and here we can start by doing some investigation about the domain with tools such as domain tools, with security trails for passive DNS. And just by having a look at domain tools, you were able to find an email address like linked to the abuse of this domain. So bernard.webmail@gmail.com. And by searching for this webmail in domain tools, if you have like a premium investigation account, you can find all of the domains that were also registered with this email. And there are a lot of them. One of them is 31337 HK, which means elite in a hacker language. So like same by going on like sources such as Alien Vault or Security Trails, you could find all of the subdomains. And one of the subdomains was beerhost.31337HK. So it's already like a link to a real brand name. Of course, it doesn't prove anything, but it's a hint. So just by looking at both at the emails that were shared and at the name of the actor, you could already just by searching this email bernard.webmail@gmail.com. If you have stored some leaked databases from like forums, because cybercriminal forums, they also have data breaches. Well, in some of the data breaches that I found, but that you can also find without too much difficulties, you could find that this email was also linked to accounts on various cybercriminal forums with the username beerhost. So by searching in Flare, yeah, you could find like that beerhost is an actor that has several accounts. It doesn't mean that they are all linked between each other, but what we have created recently is that we have created this AI-assisted summary of the threat actor activity. So just by looking at each of these forum, the summary, what you could learn just by reading the summary that was produced by the AI is that bhost is a bulletproof hosting service operator that has been active on XSS forum since December 2019. Blah 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 blah. Operating under various aliases, including Underground and Voodoo servers. So you see, just by reading the posts of this this guy, we could already learn that he claims himself that he has other usernames, which are Underground and Voodoo servers. So you can pivot on them later on. You remember I spoke to you about like bhost here. So like just by pivoting on contacts and on things that he claims himself, you can understand that bhost, Underground, and Voodoo servers are in fact the same entity. So if you go to the forum itself, you can collect the contacts of this guy, and this is super useful because it can help you to basically do some pivoting. So by doing some pivoting, you can understand that bhost and Underground are the same entities. They share the same contact addresses and basically the same offering. Eventually, this is a summary of what I could find. So you have all of their contacts. It was a dead end, so I could not really go anywhere after that. But just by looking on Google at that time at bhost Underground, I found another email, another domain that I didn't found previously, which is 31337.ru, so not .hk but .ru. And by going there, you could understand that it's basically the panel for the hosting service. It has the same logos. Then by doing an investigation on with whois, with passive DNS on this domain, I could see that most of the time it was hidden behind a CDN. So if it's hidden behind a CDN, it's basically a dead end. But thanks to passive DNS, we could see that at some points, probably there was some misconfiguration, and the domain was indicating the real IP where it was stored. So in this case, it was Changwei Technologies & Co. Also, by looking for other things that I did find for these threat actors, I could find that the domain shangwei.hk was registered by a professor, by this email address. I mean, same for this one. So basically, then everything is kind of linked, and you can go back to real world entities, to companies, and this is where it starts to be really interesting. Is because it's when you start to reaching companies, especially in countries such as Russia, that you can start to pivot on real people. So what I also found that one of the abuse contacts for this IP address was a domain name like starcratium.com that is belonging to a shell company in Cyprus, and just by looking for Starcratium Limited on the internet on Yandex, I was able to find this page that belongs to hostway.ru, and basically this page, what does it tell you? It tells you that Redbyte LCC is a legal company for Shangwei and Starcratium in Russia. Starcratium is a legal company for this hosting company in Europe. Shangwei is a legal company for this company in Hong Kong, China. So just by that, you could already understand that all of these entities are in fact linked. So these three companies are in fact held by the same person. And because registries in Russia are open, you could find the real name of the person. Once again, I hid it here because I don't want to dox anyone, but it's super easy to find right now because I've done this investigation 3 years ago, and since then they attracted a lot of information. So a lot of other people investigated it. But it was super easy to find this guy. And what was very interesting is that he was opening and closing hosting companies every 2 to 3 years. And what does it indicate to us? It indicates that it's someone who is rotating shell companies every 2 to 3 years. Why bulletproof hostings are doing that? They are doing it, yes, to complicate investigations for sure, but also because the majority of their income is from an illegal source, and they don't really want to pay taxes. They don't want to to declare all of their income that is mostly made in cryptocurrencies very often. So that's why all of their companies periodically are basically going bankrupt. And after bankruptcy, they recreate a new company, and it's basically all over from the beginning. And another hint that I found is that by visiting hostway.ru, they also had the same login system as BeerHost at that time. So you see it's the same pattern, same logic. So it's another hint that basically these two entities is in fact the same thing. Then what I've done is that I started to investigate the legal owner of those shell companies. I did find some exposed information like phone numbers, email addresses. And what was super funny is that one of the phone numbers was actually linked to a Telegram account that is called TunaStock. And TunaStock is another bulletproof hosting service that is also active up to this day. So we can see that the personal phone number of this guy is linked to TunaStock, and also to other domains that were advertised by Voodoo. And as if you remember, Voodoo is another username of BeerHost. So you can see that in fact the same entity has several brands. It's like a matryoshka, Russian matryoshka. The more you open, the more you find. So I decided also to have a look at the former companies that were closed, and ITLCC, one of the former companies of this guy, had a domain that was called erahost.pro. So just by a look on a web archive for Erahost Pro, I could find this logo, and I don't know. Does it remind you something? So basically, they just reused exactly the same logo as for their underground service. They were kind of very lazy. Search designers. And the fun story, actually, it's super fun. I found the discussion on WWH Club, which is a cybercrime forum, Russian-speaking cybercrime forum, where they basically explained that they were too lazy to find a real graphist, and they hired a graphist on a forum, from a forum. So I basically know which account created this super logo for them. So yeah, they were not very inspired with that one. Then, by having a look at the offering of this bulletproof hosting, I could compare what was the offering by the front company, Hostway.ru, and the offer made on the forums. And guess what? It was exactly the same configuration and exactly the same prices. So basically, everything was identical. So yeah, another hint that it's basically just them. Eventually, another interesting point is that I collected all of the leaked emails, all of the things that I could find, both from forums and from domains. And I don't know if you see it, but there is really an identical pattern here. So you can see that it's always the same pattern. It's username.webmail@tld. And well, you can basically see they were also lazy. It's kind of very well organized, but it's not very good because it's a pattern that can be seen full time, and that stays for years. So it's very easy. It's very easy to find them later on, to follow them. It's very easy to follow the path. If those were some random emails that had nothing connected in between them, it could be much more harder to tell that, okay, Voodoo is actually the same guy as TunaStock, and actually the same entity that registered those domains. So to kind of conclude all of it, I also did some investigation about the company itself. So I could find the LinkedIn account of the managing director. I also could find an HR website where they were hiring people, and they were basically giving you away the internal the internal hierarchy and the internal structure, telling you how many people were working for them. They even have a graphic designer, which is awesome. I don't know if it's the same that created this super logo, but it gives you an idea. So the main story is that a bulletproof hosting here, an advanced bulletproof hosting like this one, is working in the same way as a normal company. And as you can see from the social media, like they even look like the location of their server are like at normal data centers. You know, it's not something crazy as we have seen in Ukraine. It's like a real data center, and their offices could be also found kind of easily in Moscow. So just to conclude, what is also interesting is that by identifying all the IP ranges that will belong into Changwei Technologies Co., Red Byte LCT, CAT Technologies, and other entities linked to Beer Host, you could also run a mass study about what was hosted there. And an interesting part is that yes, you kind of have like any type of malware, but you also had at some point an IPT group, Loreg 53, who used their service and apparently who hosted their activity there. So it was revealed by NF Focus Security Labs. And how I found it? Just because I searched for the range of an IP address that were belonging to Starcration, and I found that at some point it was associated with an IPT activity. So yeah, thank you a lot. I know that was a little bit long. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that it was useful for you. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to send it in the Discord or somewhere else. I will try to answer them. And yes, thanks you again for your attention. I hope it was interesting. It was a little bit long, but yeah.